Poised for Exit is the weekly show for business owners and advisors who want smarter strategies, stronger companies, and better exit outcomes. I'm your host, Julie Keys, award-winning certified exit planner, speaker, and lifelong entrepreneur, helping private company owners build value, plan well, and exit on their own terms. Every exit has real stakes. That's why Poised for Exit brings in top experts to share practical insights that help owners grow value, reduce risk, and create stronger outcomes. Now, let's jump in. Welcome, everybody, to the Poised for Exit podcast show. I'm Julie Keys. Our featured guest today is the founder and CEO of an HR services company whose background in private equity gave her a leg up in understanding how a well-balanced HR strategy can add to enterprise value, especially in M&A. We're going to hear her compelling story right after these messages. So stay with us. Thinking about selling your business in the next few years? Don't wait to start planning. I've seen too many business owners wait too long and regret it. Freedom Financial Partners are financial advisors who specialize in exit planning for business owners, helping you reduce tax surprises, protect what you've built, and quantify how much you need from the sale. Their proven process helps you think beyond your business so you can move forward with clarity and confidence. The longer you wait, the fewer options you may have. Download your free financial readiness assessment today at ffpforme.com/exit. That's ffpforme.com/exit.
This is Andy Kosumba, president of Calhoun Companies. We understand that selling your business is a big deal. Since 1908, Calhoun Companies has been confidently connecting buyers and sellers. From small family shops to large corporations, our expert brokers walk with you and guide you every step of the way, whether you're looking to retire or simply for a fresh start. If you're curious what your business could sell for, or if you're ready to start the process, head to calhouncompanies.com for a free and confidential consultation. Calhoun Companies, the confident choice for buyers and sellers.
My name is Todd Grau, and I'm the president of the Twin Cities Exit Planning Chapter. If you're a business owner and advisor and want to learn more about the world of exit planning, you're invited to visit the Twin Cities chapter of the Exit Planning Institute. You can expect top-level education delivered by subject matter experts at every monthly meeting. Grow your network and draw from the learning that could be a game changer for your business or your practice. There's no pressure to become a member, so come and see what the buzz is all about. Our meetings are held the second Wednesday of the month, 7:30 to 9 a.m. See the show notes for more information and registration links.
Exiting your business is a big deal, both financially and emotionally. I'm John Marquet, Certified Exit Planning Advisor with TrustPoint. We help business owners transition smoothly on their terms. Our focus is on maximizing value, minimizing stress, and giving you confidence in what's next. Whether you're selling or passing the torch, we make the process seamless. Start planning today at trustpointinc.com. That's trustpointinc.com.
Most business owners wait too long to plan their exit, and it can cost them. By the time they're ready, tax-saving opportunities may be long gone. The CPAs at John A. Knutson & Company help you plan early so you can maximize value, minimize taxes, and exit on your terms. With over 100 years of guiding ownership transitions, including buy-sell, succession, and ESOPs, we know the best outcomes transpire from planning ahead. If exiting your business is a future possibility, start now. Visit jakcpa.com. That's jakcpa.com.
Hey, Poised for Exit listeners, we are in the studio here today with Kristin Nordling, who is the founder and CEO of Lakeside HR Group. So happy to have you on the show, Kristin. Thanks for joining us.
I am thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me, Julie.
Yeah. I love your story. Loved being able to moderate a panel that you were on recently, and you did such a great job. And it just made so much sense for me to ask you to come on the show and elaborate a little bit more, because we have a lot of business owners who listen to this show. We've got a lot of advisors who listen to this show. So I think that there's something for both worlds there. And of course, women entrepreneurs, always close and dear to my heart. So
Mine too.
Yeah.
Mine too. So, well, thank
Sure.
you. No, that was a fun event, and you did a great job on that as well. So,
thank you. Thanks. Yeah. It was an honor. So I like to start my interviews off by having people kind of share their story and how they got to where they are. And I know that you've been in the corporate world for, or were anyway, for 25 some years, and then founded your company several years ago. And so there's kind of a big difference, right? Like kind of a flip of the script from the corporate world to private sector, especially as a founder and CEO. Like, wow, big
Right.
swings.
It was definitely, well, when I started this almost 5 years ago to the day, I did not think that we would be where we are. At the time, I was a solopreneur. I knew I wanted to try my hand in consulting. I was fortunate enough to have over 25 years in corporate HR and recruiting leadership roles. The last 6-ish years were really more in the private equity owned organizations. And so one of my first ones was a building products company that was in very high growth through acquisition. And that was, I think we did nearly 20 acquisitions in the 3.5 years that I was there. And it
Oh my
was
gosh.
absolutely nuts. But a great
Wow.
experience because we were acquiring single owner operator. Typically, they were installation companies or building product installation companies. And that's really where when I look back at the aha moments that I have now with working with small business owners, is a lot of them would look at me as I was sitting across the table and doing due diligence with our executive team. And they'd be like, well, why is HR here? HR doesn't need to be a part of this discussion. My people are, my people are compliant. We've got the I-9s, payroll is fine. And I kind of would chuckle because I could tell that they just weren't used to what good HR could look like. And so then fast forward, we went through a couple transactions with that organization. The last one ultimately resulted in us, the entire executive team was basically let go, and which was fine. Went on to another private equity owned company, and kind of same thing. We had acquired a smaller dessert manufacturer out of Atlanta, and they didn't do due diligence on the HR side before I joined. And so I walked into quite the disaster. I mean, it was a great company, great people, but boy, if we would have done some due diligence, there's some things that we could have potentially avoided. And it was very costly for the organization. I then was thankfully tapped by the CEO from the building products company to come help him take the company from public to private and go through a transaction. And I decided to really look at that as a potential for me to, what would it feel like to be part of an organization and helping it set up for their future and then walking away. And because, with consulting, a lot of times you don't get to see things through. You don't get to, be able to, build the real strong relationships with them. And I really wanted to understand what did that look like. And that was a really fun experience for me. That was one of those that I realized this is what I wanted to do. And so we were successful in the sale. And that's when I decided to start Lakeside HR Group and really sold my services. I sold HR consulting and recruiting services and was thinking that was the path I was going to take. And now we're I think we're 17 employees as of today. We just had a new hire and, we've been, experienced some really fast growth in 5 years. So it's been very fun.
Wow. That is a lot of growth in 5 years. Congratulations.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
Well, and we're going to talk more about private equity a little bit later on in the interview, but, I wanted to kind of take a look at those 5 years because you're approaching an anniversary and the milestones and the fact that once you reach the 5-year mark, right, you're over the hump because we all know, right,
Yes.
most private companies fail within the first 5. And so you're there and going strong, as we talked about before the show.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what you're most proud of over the last 5 years since founding this wonderful company.
Well, thank you. And it has been a crazy 5 years. I can't believe how fast it's gone. And I think there's so many things I'm proud of. One, when I look at the team that I've built, especially the team that is, here with me today, that the executive team that has helped me get to this point and helped us get to this point. I'm so proud of our resilience, our tenacity, the fact that, we have been able to lean in and have that true, entrepreneurial mindset. It's one thing to be the business owner and have that entrepreneurial mindset, but to actually have a team that really can wrap their head around that and really understand that, how things started aren't the way that they're going to continue going, and recognizing that we have to react to the changes in the market, the changes of what our clients are seeing. And so I'm just super proud of that. I would not be here if it wasn't for the team. The fact that we got Fast 50 and we're number 5 in the Minneapolis-St. Paul Business Journal, that was huge. And, we're feeling very confident about next year too, this year's award as well. And the fact that we just keep continuing to grow and responding to the clients. And I think the biggest thing that I'm most proud of is the fact that our business, when we look at where we get our business, it has been through referrals, whether it be from client referrals or, partners, people out there in the market that are saying our name when we're not in the room. And that is something, it gives me goosebumps just talking about it. It's just one of those things that I wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. So super proud of that.
Yeah. Well, you really have laid a lot of groundwork to get you to a place that differentiates you from your competition. And again, there's more that we'll talk about when we get to that point. But I just wanted to mention that because
thank you.
It's such a differentiator, especially now with the way that the market is. But let's talk about the work that you do and what you're seeing business owners doing now or not doing, right? Some of the costliest mistakes that could totally be avoided. Like to your point before, they had no HR due diligence done whatsoever, and that can derail a transaction.
Well, it very much can, and it almost did with the company I was working for at the time. It's when companies go into acquisitions and they don't think that they need to have HR at the table. It is always just or they think of HR as only the I-9 process. That's the part that it's more than I-9s. I-9s are extremely important, and compliance is extremely important. And when people are going into it thinking of HR only as a compliance function, that's where I see the mistakes happening, because there is a huge amount of change that goes on with any acquisition. I think about these. We were acquiring, single owner operator organizations out in the field, and these were in small towns. And part of the reason why I was at the table was to see, could these owners integrate into the organization? Because our way of acquisition was really the owner stayed on, because a lot of times these owners were the brand. And so we needed to make sure that they were able to, integrate into our organization. Would they be able to report to someone outside of, themselves, and would they be able to continue to grow the organization? And then also, how will the company and the employees respond to this change? A lot of times I see people focusing more on the benefits, okay, what's the cost going to be to convert over to benefits? That's important, extremely important, but that's not the only thing.
No, exactly.
Yeah. And so I think when we're only looking at it from a financial aspect, people are very dynamic, and there's you don't know a culture of an organization until you really get in there. And so I really, I was early on when I started Lakeside, I was part of some due diligence, and our team does a lot of due diligence. But to speak from the experience that I had, is, sitting across the table from the owner and the CFO and one of their key employees, talking about culture, talking about what makes this company different from other companies. What are the things that they don't want to lose in an acquisition? What are the things that really make them different? Why were they attractive to this, client of mine in the first place? What do we not want to lose? And really capturing that. And then, of course, obviously I go through all the files, and we do all those things, and we, and understand payroll process and understand all of that to make sure that it does make sense and it is financially viable for them from a people side to be able to make this acquisition.
Yeah. The HR audit, of course, is important, but like you said, that's really like where it stops in so many situations. And you and I both know that M&A integrations fail often, and most of the time it's because there isn't a match in culture or values or, philosophy, right? And
Right.
all of those are the intangibles that actually drive the value of the business.
Right.
Right? Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I love
Yeah.
going on site, and our consultants say this too. They love going on site to these potential acquisitions because they can see, okay, what do they have on their walls? I loved, this one that I went to and that I worked on early on in the Lakeside history was they had a whole board of history of their employees and their tenure. And it was quite impressive.
That's
and
awesome.
There was one guy that had been there 45 years
Mm.
and he was still there. He was still one of their key people. How do we make sure he stays? Because clearly something's working with him, and
Yeah.
making sure we understand what it is about that.
I love that. Yeah, I had a client years ago, and I haven't had one since. But their whole break room, and it was a pretty good sized company, but like they broke pictures down by department, and then had brought in a photographer, and had a photo taken of everyone.
Yep.
And then there was a short bio of each, including their birth date, not the year, but their birth date, all the things they like to do, how they got there, what they love about their job. And really like making those connections, especially when you have a bigger company like that. I just thought it was such a great way one way anyway, to build culture. So what are some of the things then, when we're talking about this, how is, when you bring in your experts, and I know you've got a great bench of advisors, how are they working with business owners now to create a more like front and center HR approach versus like back seat?
Yeah. So one of the things that we do early on in our process, before taking on any clients, is we do an assessment of their, first of all, their HR department, but really understanding. We spend a lot of time on the front end understanding their organization. We can sense pretty quickly, because a lot of us have 20 plus years of experience, if it is, if the culture is one that is more fear-based, or if it's a collaborative culture. And so, a lot of times what we'll do is we'll go in on the front end and really help them see some of those things that might be hidden to them, because when you're in it every day, you don't notice some of the challenges in a culture. And so for us, we embed ourselves in, especially in our fractional assignments, we're embedded into our clients. And so they, as soon as a team knows, an employee population knows there's somebody on site that they can talk to, those little hallway conversations, the break room conversations, those things will uncover a lot. Yes. And there is something about when you're embedded in a culture, people feel more comfortable opening up as well. And yes, I mean, I think a lot of times people think of HR as therapists too, which is a good and a bad thing.
Yeah, kind of like your hairdresser, only more.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so it's just, them feeling comfortable talking through some challenges, and we can filter some of those challenges up to the senior leadership team that they may not even have line of sight to.
Right. Yeah, because they haven't had the conversations, or they're just busy doing, so the communication's broken. Yeah, I'm just thinking of all kinds of situations I've been in over the years with clients where, I got the tap on the shoulder because I was trusted, and, they wanted to have somebody to talk to, just like you said, and everyone needs that. But
some of, our consultants they're coaches too. I mean, they are aligned with typically the owners or the CEOs or the C-suite, and they are getting to know that team very well. And so they do turn into coaches as well. And I, that's when I look back at my career, that one of the things I'm most proud of is the fact that, I was a trusted resource throughout my entire career. And a lot of those people that I worked with in the past are people that are clients now. And
wow,
but it shows that HR should really be a relationship function. It's not a compliance function. We have to have that compliance part of HR, but it is really about relationships.
Totally. And when you think about everything that falls under HR, right? When it's done well.
Yes.
HR can become kind of an ambiguous term, just like marketing. Like, okay, we'll define that, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's got their own interpretation of what it is.
Well, I had safety. I mean, I had no, honestly, I still remember this day when I was talking to my CEO and said I was bringing up some of the challenges we were having in our safety function. He goes, guess who is now the proud owner of safety? And I go, who? He goes, HR and you, Kristin. I'm like, oh gosh, what did I just get myself into? But what it reminded me is, even though I didn't have the safety experience, what I did have was leadership. I knew how to manage people. I knew how to make sure that we were executing on the initiatives. Right. And it was looking at safety as part of the business versus as a function. And that's the same with HR. HR is part of the business. It's not a function.
Yeah, definitely. And a big part too. I just think about like some of the things that many of my clients have really struggled with, especially over the last couple of years, is recruiting the right people. Mm-hmm. Because of course, I know, everyone knows that we have workforce challenges. We have generational challenges. We have work ethic challenges. Talent, right, is somewhat limited depending on the industry and finding people that can actually do the work. And I think just like having that, because I know you guys offer recruiting services. I know that you also, obviously you would do, the whole culture assessment and helping them figure out with onboarding, training, reviews, all the things, right? Right. So let's talk about some of those services and how maybe you've got a client or two that you could, cite a story that kind of illustrates. That'd be awesome. Yeah. So we offer, to kind of give you the big picture, we are all things HR. So we offer, the HR consulting in a fractional, interim, or project-based manner. We even will do, we have an on-call model too for clients that don't necessarily need even fractional HR. They just need us when they need us. So we do have an on-call model for them as well. Good to know. I didn't know that. That's great.
So that's new. That was really part of my mission when I started Lakeside HR was really about making sure that I truly believe that all companies, regardless of their size, need to have access to good HR.
Yes.
And it's really hard when a company is, maybe 20 people, 15 people, and they have issues when they have issues. And so that's where on-call kind of came out of. It was fine when it was just me doing consulting and having those on-call clients. But now with the team and making sure that we have people available to those clients, we needed to create a model that supported that. And then on the recruiting side, we do contingent recruiting and fractional recruiting. And, the thing that I am most proud of with our team is our ability to adapt. And a lot of our, I would say, because we're working with small to mid-sized businesses, their needs can, kind of go up and down as they, throughout the year. And so to be able to flex and be flexible and adaptable for them, that's what's most important to us. But we really look at HR, and when we're working with our organizations that we support, we're looking at it as from the full life cycle of an employee. So from the time that they're starting to think about opening a position to, when somebody's exiting the organization. And so really looking at that full life cycle. And one of the clients that we're working with right now that I'm really proud of, one of our consultants on our team that has been working with them for, a year and a half now. She went in as kind of a, let's see what you need. They thought they only needed a handbook. She built a very strong relationship with the founder and owner of the organization. They're a team of 50 employees, but fast growth. At the time, they were 50 employees, fast growth. And she built this really strong relationship with the executive team to the point where they're like, I don't know what we would do without you. And, so she was embedded within their organization on every Tuesday and Wednesday she was on site, and then she was available to them a certain number of hours. So she was truly a fractional consultant with them. She worked with them from the time that she basically started with us until just about 2 weeks ago in that fractional model. They were anti-HR. They did not think there was anything good about HR when she came in. They just needed a handbook because there were a lot of new laws that were coming into Minnesota, and so they needed a new handbook. Well, that quickly changed to, oh my gosh, what are we going to do without her? The thing that, a lot of people will laugh at me when I say this, I'm okay when a client gets to a point where they don't need us anymore. And especially in the fractional model, because now they are starting to see the value of HR and they're bringing in an HR leader. So in this case, we were able to actually recruit for their HR manager that is now working for them. We were able to help them transition into that with that new HR leader, so that HR leader can be successful in her role. And she now knows what the roadmap should be and is going to be for her role. Right. And she also knows she can call us anytime. So yes, our steady 20 hours a week consulting engagement is done with them, which yes, on a revenue side, it was very nice.
Yeah.
In the end, we knew that they outgrew us and they needed to have someone on site. And so that's the type of partnership that we're looking for with our clients, is that, trusted relationship. And, we're exiting at the time that it makes sense. It didn't make sense for them to continue to have her on site. They needed someone. She couldn't be the best that she could be because she was, she saw that there was a bigger need. And was it financially the right thing for them to have a full-time resource, her as a full-time resource at that billable rate? No. And so working with them to make sure they found the right person was really important to us.
Yeah, you really become part of the team. And then when you see the needs like that, what you did there, aside from building enterprise value, which of course is what you do, you just really set that new person up for success, which of course the learning curve is minimal, right? She's still got you guys to fall back on. And yeah, what a great story. I love that.
Well, and it's super fun for us too. Our recruiters love to work with our consultants too, because then they know, they've got someone inside that can really help make sure that the process is moving along and they're getting the right person in place. And so, and they're trusting, our consultants as well. So that's
fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, because recruiting is so difficult, right? Trying to find the right fit. But when you've got somebody already there who can say, here's who we really need, and can say it with confidence and expertise, that's everything.
It really is. It really is.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Talk about adding value, man.
Yeah, no, that was a fun one. And while our consultants is sad to not be going there, we thankfully, we always have the other consulting engagements that keep popping up, and then that client has already referred several other clients to us, which is huge, and it's allowed us to utilize that one as a nice little case study for the value of HR, because they didn't see the value until that consultant went in.
Yeah, well, so we're talking about value and building value. And your expertise in private equity. I said that I would circle back to this.
Yeah.
So we know that there are private equity firms out there of every stripe that go beyond the numbers of public companies, right? There's so many now. And we also know that our clients are getting phone calls and not always with representation, which is kind of scary to me. So, my advice is make sure you have representation before you start answering any deep questions, right?
Make sure you're surrounding yourself.
Yeah, but let's just take a look at the fact that so many of those private companies now are getting these solicitations outside of any deal maker that's in the mix.
Right.
What are some of the things, based on your experience, that if I were selling my company in the next couple of years and I'm considering private equity, what are some things that I really need to do to prepare for that type of due diligence?
Yeah. And the one thing, and I know you've talked about this in previous podcasts too, is the fact that you never want the owner to be everybody dependent on the owner for everything.
Yes, absolutely.
I know you've talked about that. And HR can help with that, especially strategic HR. Strategic HR can help you look at your organization. We went into a client that family-owned business. It was, his dad's business. Now the son is getting to a point where he's starting to talk about his retirement. And what does that retirement look like? He assumed his son was going to go into the business as well. His son is not. And he did not want the family business to end with him retiring. And so, it's a very successful business. And so we went in to help him understand what he needed. He thought he needed HR. He thought he needed operations. He wasn't sure. So one of our consultants went in and really worked with him to understand his organization, understand who his leadership team was right now, what was so dependent on him, and really did a true kind of org design session with him and one of his right-hand people. Very quickly realized that he didn't necessarily need just an HR person. It really, what he needed was that COO. They weren't an EOS, so it wasn't something that he didn't have an integrator, so to speak, but that's what we helped him understand was this is probably like an integrator role or a COO role so that the business isn't so dependent on you. He already had a sales team built, so it wasn't like sales was the dependency. It was really the operations, and the team was really dependent on him. They, it had been in the family for so long that everybody knew that, this person, if he left, it could potentially derail the whole organization. Well, now he's gone down the path of, okay, I might have to sell, I don't, and so really building out that structure of the organization so it's not dependent on him and thinking about it longer term. And so we can come in and help with that. We also, obviously the obvious is to make sure they're compliant, make sure that, all their paperwork is set up. Sometimes little things like making sure that they've got a payroll system, we've been doing everything through QuickBooks or system, so it makes it easier. Just helping them look at the bigger picture of the HR function, but not just the function, but also the business and the people around it. Who are those key employees? If you're going to sell and those key employees are the people that need to stay in, how do you make sure you're setting them up to be able to be retained? I mean, I think about, when we were going into, when I was CHRO and we'd go into these companies and we were like, gosh, if we lose this person, this deal won't go through. We aren't going to get our value. This is their key salesperson, or this is the potential successor for the owner. We needed to make sure that everything was set up in a way that, would ensure the success. And so I think it's always better when the owner has thought of those things beforehand so that they're setting it up for the potential buyer to be a clean break.
Yeah, I think that that's something that is out there in conversations in the M&A space quite often. But I think that it isn't just a matter of knowing it's important. It's a matter of, okay, well, what are the strategies? How do I do that?
Right.
So maybe you could give us a little illustration on how you solved that problem for that client.
Yeah. So in that case, we did that. Are you talking the client that the owner that
key person retention maybe.
So in that case, we actually set up that person with a stay bonus and not necessarily, it was the shadow shares. I'm totally blanking on the word right now, but so they didn't have equity, but they had it with
the phantom stock. Sure.
Phantom stock, thank you. I was like, I knew there was the word for it, but with the phantom stock. And so that in that case, that individual had that carrot out there. They knew they were valuable, but we also helped. We actually sat down with that key employee and brought them into the process. So there was no surprises because they needed to understand what they were walking into as well. Right. And so we wanted them to be part of that process. And so that's where it was really critical for the owner to have that person. And plus that person was, knew more than the owner did in a lot of cases. And so making sure that they were on board with all of this. And in the end, they were also really critical on because the owner wanted to leave a legacy too, which is something that a lot of owners want, is making sure that their legacy is out there and it's positive and after an exit. And so this key employee with a few others that were within that organization as well, we're going to be very critical to that. And so whoever acquired them, they wanted to make sure that they were taken care of and they were going to be part of that legacy. And so that was, they were part of all of the due diligence conversations, and which is always that can be a little scary at times too. You don't necessarily, you can't control that, those conversations, but you can educate them on what a due diligence process is. And that's why surrounding yourself with the right resources before on the front end of that process, so that they're educated. A lot of times they may not have gone through this before. So you want to make sure that they understand what this all means for them.
And there's so many needs that the due diligence process requires that, like you said, the owner doesn't have the answers for all those questions. They have to rely on their leadership team to go through that process. And so you're right, it has to be set up ahead of time. The retention planning, obviously non-disclosure, right?
Gosh, yes.
Because there's a fear of, the word getting out. And so that has to be carefully kept for sure. But having that good strategy, right? Because there is no legacy if there is no strategy to do that.
Right.
And legacy can be like a driving force in a transition plan beyond whatever their liquidity could be.
Mm-hmm.
I've had many clients over the years who have put that front and center versus, maximizing how much they could get for the business. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Because in that situation, a lot of times everybody wins.
Right.
So,
and you want, I mean, there are so many horror stories out there of acquisitions gone wrong and where owners didn't get, they didn't get the payout that they expected. They didn't, things, didn't work out quite as planned. So the more that you can be planful on that exit process and understanding, pre-planning and understanding, how much is relying on your people. What is that book of business? Is your brand, your personal brand, the one that's out there representing the company? And if another company comes in and puts their logo on things, will everything dissolve? It's those things that a lot of times an HR leader or an HR person can help you look at too. Is okay, who are those people? Who are those people within your organization, and what do you need to be thinking about?
Yeah. And, when it comes to delegation planning, which is a lot of what you're talking about, not just succession planning, getting things off the plate so that the owners aren't the face of the business, that takes time.
And that is not a one-year process.
You're not doing it overnight. That's for sure.
No. That's one of the things that I'm so happy about, the fact that Lakeside has set ourselves up for success too, from the standpoint of we did EOS early on.
Yes.
And, I am whether it's EOS or another operating system, because technically ours is an EOS, but it is an operating system to set up those clear accountabilities. Everybody's very clear on what they're doing. We're all very clear on the goals. We look at things quarterly. I think that's super critical to helping your company be set up for success in the long term.
Yeah, definitely. This has been a wonderful conversation, Kristin. Thank you for the advice. Thank you for sharing your stories. So insightful, so valuable.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Well, this was very fun, and as you can tell, I'm passionate about what we do.
And I'm happy that you are, because it's such a game changer for so many different owners out there. So thanks for all the work that you do, and thanks to your team, and we'll have to have you back on the show in the future.
All right. Thanks, Julie.
It'd be great. All right. Thanks, listeners. Join us again next time.